Leading off for the Philadelphia Phillies, the designated hitter, number 12, Kyle Schwarber.
Okay, we are talking with Mr. Spring Training himself, Chris Wheeler. Wheels, refresh my memory. How long have you been doing this?
My first spring training down here, Chet, was 1972. And that was the day that Larry Shank came to me, my boss at the time, and said, have you ever done the PA before? And I said, yeah, sure. I hadn't. He said, well, our regular PA announcer got a little banged up last night, overserved, and he's not going to make it. So would you do it? And I kind of wally-pipped him.
I love it. All right, so the last 3 seasons, the Phillies didn't quite get to the finish line. Very disappointing, especially, I guess, last year, winning the division, but kind of stumbling down the stretch and then getting beaten by the Mets in 4 games. Is there extra motivation, do you think, after something like that?
Well, you know, as I always tell you when we do shows, I'm not around them anymore, so I don't know them. I have gotten to know Rob Thompson and some of the coaches a little bit, and they're just terrific, and they're very motivated. And look, there's windows involved in any team, and this team is getting close. It's like our 80 team needed to win. Our 2008 team didn't win again after that. Didn't win a World Series after that, even though they maybe should have. This team got into a World Series pretty quick. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of motivation, but there's so much goes into a long baseball season. You know, this team was very, very good yet for the most part last year, and then kind of went down. The Mets got really hot. So, yeah, a lot of these guys are getting a little bit older right now, and it's probably getting closer to the time when they need to get to a World Series and hopefully win one.
Trea Turner, the shortstop, was having a real good year before the injury, then came back and was never quite the same after that. His final numbers didn't look bad, but you would like to see him, hit 300 and steal more bases than he did last year. I know the hamstring was an issue last year. What do you expect from Turner?
Well, they're experimenting with the batting order, as everybody knows. And this week, when you're down here, you will see that they will move him around a little bit. Turner really was struggling early on, swinging through a lot of pitches, taking a lot of pitches. I think he's trying to be more selective. I think he's trying to get on base more because they understand how important that is. Get him away from thinking about hitting home runs because he'll hit them by accident. The last, I want to say, week, he started to look pretty good. Spring training. I remember one year John Kruk had an offer down here and hit 300. So we had a guy over here the other day with the Tampa Bay Rays had 12 hits already. Well, he's going to leave them here. But what you're trying to look for is contact, speed of the ball off the bat, and those kind of things, which I don't look at numbers. I can hear it and see it. And he's starting to put it together a little bit. So, knock on wood, he's going to be okay.
So if you were the manager, would you have Turner at the top of the lineup?
That's such a hard question. When you look at the success that this team has had, with Kyle Schwarber leading off. Now, he's been struggling this spring. He is not close to being where you hope him to be, swinging through a lot of pitches late. But, everybody, you look at Schwarber and you know what he can do, and he should be fine. I don't know. Turner, quote unquote, is a prototypical leadoff hitter that we grew up with, a guy that can run, steal bases, and he's Jimmy Rollins like in that he can pop one and give you a lead right out of the chute. So then you always have to think about who's hitting after that. We're going to have Harper in there where he's comfortable. Harper loves to hit third. Does he want a base stealer in front of him? I don't know. I'm glad I don't have to deal with that.
All right. So we're hoping for a big year out of Turner, but waiting in the wings, a guy named Aiden Miller, who everybody says should be ready for sure by next year. What do you do when you have Turner and Aiden Miller both willing and ready to play shortstop?
Always a good problem.
Yeah.
If you have two people that are that good. Now, Aiden Miller is a prospect. Right. Trea Turner is a star. So we'll see. I saw Miller play down here because I get to stay here till July every year. And I saw Crawford and Aiden Miller play down here for the Threshers, right where we're sitting right now in this area. He has his body's gotten bigger already. Is he going to outgrow shortstop? I don't know, but he's a big kid. He's over 6 foot, and he's putting on some good weight and all those kind of things. Good bat, but this is major leagues.
Yeah.
Jim, forget this where we are doing this show is this gorgeous, beautiful ballpark. Baycare Ballpark. But Jim Fregosi used to say when a guy's having a hot spring or doing, let's see what he does when he sees an upper deck. So there's so far to go with that. But all I can tell you is watching Crawford and watching Miller the last couple of years down here, and a little bit we've seen them in spring training this year, they're both potential big league players.
Phillies didn't make any huge moves over the winter, but they did get a new left fielder, Max Kepler. I'm intrigued by him. Hopefully he can stay healthy. Hopefully he can hit both lefties and righties. But what do you like about Kepler?
Everything. But, it's spring training.
Yeah.
But, I've seen him play here. He seemed like he came over here a lot with the Twins over the years. Always thought, he looked like a pretty good player. He's a big guy. I think that will surprise people how physically big he is. He can run. He can play the outfield. Now he's playing a new position, left field. But when you're athletic as this guy is, and he's hit some home runs in spring training, he's walked. He's made a lot of hard contact. You mentioned left-handers. He hasn't seen that many left-handers. They didn't start him off Scooble the other day. Scooble was just, for Detroit, was just ridiculous. So it was like, I think Rob Thompson probably thought, I don't think I'm going to play him today. He's got a good swing going right now. Why mess him up with a guy like Scooble? So he is a very intriguing player, and I'll be interested to see what he can do, whether he's an everyday player, whether he and Marsh are everyday players. But we really don't have a lot from the right side as far as right fielder goes, especially with the Weston Wilson's injury right out of the chute in batting practice here in spring training. So I don't know. You need those guys to play. You want them to play. Rojas has been a little slow coming back this year because of his shoulder. But the day that you and I taped this show, we both saw him out here throwing. So that's the next step for him to go, because he's swinging the bat decent. But he's another one you don't know till they get to that upper deck.
One thing everybody really likes as a Phillies fan is the starting rotation.
Yeah.
Maybe the best in baseball. What do you think of these five guys?
It's good. And Zach Wheeler's going to be 35 in a month. Yeah, that's what I mean about the window. Aaron Nola's 32.
Yeah.
I love Jesus Luzardo. I really liked him when he was with Miami. That was a trade that was made, unless you're a real baseball fan, you went, who cares?
How about Sanchez, too?
Well, I'm going to get to him. Yeah. Cristopher Sanchez is a different guy, and he did show up. You could tell right away he's bigger, but sometimes bigger is not better.
Yeah. But
in his case, his velocities high 90s right now, and he has good off-speed stuff. So yeah, he's really come a long way. So yeah, the starting pitching.
Suarez is a big question mark, though.
And Ranger is Ranger. He said he never threw hard. So he's not throwing 95 like some of these guys. But Ranger is maybe the smartest of all of them as far as pitching goes. And nothing gets by him. He's such a good defender out there. And it's his walk year, too. So sometimes guys on walk years put together even better years. The whole thing, I think, with Rangers, he has to stay healthy, because the last couple of years, Chet, he broke down a little bit. There's nothing about Ranger to see that you don't like. Except people, we're so fixated on velocity nowadays. Not as important with a left-hander anyway, in my opinion, because their ball moves so much naturally. Would you like him to be 93, 90? Sure. And will he be? Maybe. But he can do so many other things, and he's a quote-unquote pitcher.
Lastly, there's the bullpen. They lost Hoffman. They lost Estevez. Picked up, I guess, Romano. What do you think of the pen? Who's going to close? Do we know?
I'll tell you what, Alvarado's ridiculous right now.
When he's on, he's great.
Oh, my goodness. And he's smaller. That's smaller. You can tell when you'll see him. Anyway, he's just, they use that term, filthy. Nobody wants to hit off him. You can see that. He gets so many swings and misses, his velocity, and he's throwing cutters now and sinkers. And he's another guy. Has to stay healthy. But he reported like 15 pounds under from what he was before. So he's really good. Kirk Reed's been very good. He's got great potential. You mentioned Jordan Romano, who's a big-time relief pitcher who had some problems this year physically. But I saw him enough times here with Toronto over the years, and I thought that was a great signing. So we'll see. After that, Matt Strom, we haven't seen much of him. We saw him 2 times. And he
shoulder injury, right?
Yeah. It was, but they said he threw the other day, and he's talking about being fine and maybe even ready. If he isn't ready, he's close. So we need him, obviously need him because of the two guys you mentioned that we missed. So, Tanner Banks is he's one of those guys who can get a left-hander hitter out a little bit, but there's not a whole lot there. A couple guys in spring training they're flirting with a little bit, but we'll see what happens with those guys.
Lastly, the NL East could be the most competitive division in baseball. 3 teams that a lot of people think will be, in the hunt for the National League pennant: Braves, Mets, Phils. How do you see this playing out?
Well, you just hit it right at the start. This is a very tough division. I don't know what's tougher. Maybe the West. I don't know that the Dodgers have more competition than we have in this division. The Braves are going to be better because they were hurt so much last year. Everybody's given the division title to the Mets because of Soto coming over, but their starting pitching is kind of crazy. So they have Clay Holmes, who was a Yankee reliever all those times, has been very, very good in spring training as a starter. They took a chance there, and I guarantee the Yankees wish they had him back right now with all the problems that they're having. Washington is a team that is getting better and better every year. They've got pretty good young players. The Marlins are always in the period of you don't know. But one thing about the Marlins is they always have athletes playing, good young athletes playing for them. But the top 3 here with Atlanta, the Phillies, and the Mets. When the Danny Ozark say that one year throw a blanket over them at the end of the year, I think those 3 teams should be very competitive all year. And with which one will step out and take over, we'll see. Personally, I don't like the idea of watching Soto. It was so nice to get him out of our division when he went to San Diego and then the Yankees. But to have to deal with him, he's tough. And when they brought back Alonso, I was hoping he would leave, that they would not get there with him. But with having Soto in that lineup, and Alonso has to be so much more relaxed.
Yeah, going to be interesting. Hey, bonus question.
Yeah.
As a Penn State guy, how happy were you to see Saquon Barkley have the season he had and the Eagles go to the Super Bowl winning?
Because you and I have talked about Saquon Barkley over the years. You know what I thought of him as a guy. So I'm not surprised.
Great player, great guy.
Yeah, when he was great guy. Oh, my goodness. He's a Hall of Fame human being, too, as you know. Yeah. And the Eagles fans know. I was lucky enough to get to meet him up there and be in his company and heard what the coaches said about him when he was 18 years old. No surprises there. Penn State had really good offensive lines in the days that he played there, so he was Saquon. Then he went to the Giants, and obviously they couldn't do anything for him. The Eagles have a great offensive line. So he became Saquon Barkley again, but I'm very happy for him.
Mr. Spring Training. Tris Wheeler, great seeing you again, my friend.
You too, Chen. Always a pleasure.